When governors, mayors, and national leaders told us to stay home and work remotely, back in what seems like the Ice Age, we were thrust into a state of shock, disorientation, and, ultimately, acceptance. 2.5 months later, we have grown accustomed to Zoom, COVID-19 news updates, our colleagues' disheveled hair, and wearing masks. However, CEOs, including me, are now planning how to physically reopen our enterprises over the next few weeks and months. I sent a survey to hundreds of top executives, receiving 130 completed questionnaires, asking about their current business conditions, their expectations over the next 6 months, and their concerns. My hope was to offer observations and implications that emerged from the data to the CEO community as a gauge of what its members are thinking and to policymakers building a roadmap for the future. Because the surveyed group included many graduates of MBA programs whose population gravitates toward financial services and consulting, 37% of the respondents work in those industries. Over half, or 57%, work in companies with fewer than 50 employees and only 20% are part of a large firm with over 1,000 people. Both the enterprise size and its industry sector seem to strongly influence the answers. Given that the coronavirus has had a disastrous impact on global gross domestic product, I was amazed that sales were flat to slightly higher for 50% of the participants. That makes sense, when considering that 74% of those from finance and consulting reported flat to slightly higher sales. These business models include ongoing fees based on assets under management, long-term projects still in progress, and assignments related to management strategy in the new COVID-19 world. On the other side of the spectrum were 11% of those surveyed whose sales have dropped over 50%. Those hit the hardest operate in leisure, travel and consumer businesses. The divide illustrates what we know about the economic impact of the pandemic. Businesses, such as social media, video games, telemedicine, and communications platforms benefit if they can continue to provide and even expand their services while working remotely or serving customers who are experiencing stay-at-home orders. Those whose goods and services require or primarily rely on physical interaction, restaurants, retail, personal services, travel, and hospitality have suffered tremendously. The extent to which we can successfully integrate a physically disconnected workforce will be an important determinant of how CEOs manage their organizations for the foreseeable future. Among the vast majority of respondents, remote work had been rare before the pandemic. Almost half, or 47%, reported that under 10% of work had been done at home and 80% of executives claimed no more than 25% worked out of the office prior to the pandemic. Consulting was the outlier, with 44% of work remote.